Greetings everyone and welcome in today's webinar, Why ISO 9001 is a necessary tool for organization during a global oil industry recession. Great to have you all here with us. I am Sean Mehmeti, the Portfolio Marketing Manager for Quality Management System here at PCB and organizer of this webinar. This webinar will be presented by PCB Certified Trainer, PCB Certified Lead Auditor, PCB Certified Management System Auditor. He is a Petroleum Engineer with more than 2 decades of international experience in various industries including oil and gas exploitation, production, manufacturing, project management, etc. Mr. Kene Ofojuah. Please feel free to write your questions and comments in the box, in the question box in the right-hand control panel, or you can use the raise hand function. We will unmute you and you will have a chance to ask the question directly to Kene. All of the other questions will be answered accordingly at the end of the presentation. Please, Kene, you may continue with the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Welcome everyone to today's webinar that's entitled Why ISO 9001 is a necessary tool during a global oil recession. We all know that in the past 2 years there has been tremendous reduction in activities in the oil industry. This has led to various things, various changes. It has led to reduced revenues, it has led to job losses, has led to stagnation in the industry, declining contracts, various things. These are things we see when you have a bust in the oil industry, and of course that puts us in a recession. So today here we're trying to take ISO 9001, the principles, the management principles associated with ISO 9001, and try to see how this can help all of us, the people in the industry, companies, service companies, IOCs, everybody that's in the industry, and see how this can take us further. So that is the essence and that's the beauty of this of the webinar, because we're trying to take all the 7 items that's in the ISO 9001 management principles and see how one after the other this can help us to be able to stay afloat and keep going in this industry. So considering the oil industry, we have various sectors, and we have some key business areas. That's exploration, exploitation, refining, transportation, process, marketing, and associated hydrocarbon interest. All these business areas are all associated in one provides service or help or management or consulting or some kind of service to each other to be able to keep the oil industry going. And because of this recession right now, all these areas and departments and activities all have one shortfall or the other. There's one problem to the other. So all these there are various companies that's in exploration. There's some in exploitation. There's many in refining. There's many in transportation, process, marketing, and associated other interests. So if we take ISO 9001, ISO 9001 is a very good tool, but essentially most organizations have implemented this. Some are about to implement it, and some have not implemented it. But ISO 9001 has requirements and it has principles that's very, very key to a successful business, because it helps you to drive your business. It helps you to move on to the next step. And essentially, the ISO 9001-2015, because of the way it's construed, has a very good phrase for business. Is a very, very good tool for business at this time, and it is very necessary that everybody should know what it says. We know still that there are some key players in this industry. Yeah, the independent operating companies, as the companies are like into some of these activities we mentioned earlier, exploration, exploitation, and all that. And then there are service companies too that render services to organizations as service contractors. And then there are process industries. All these organizations, they add one value to the other, to the industry. They render service. They help to process. They use feed from the upstream down to the downstream, and then try to make all of us in the world better. Because you see, as much as the industry is on a downward trend, it affects a whole lot of people, and then it keeps drawing the industry back. And that is why we think that all these companies that are in the independent operating companies, and service companies that are all in the process industries and all that, we should be able to get ISO 9001 principles and tenets to them so that they can really use it, because a lot of companies has implemented ISO 9001, but they rarely use it. Although the ISO 9001 2015 has really made changes, because now, essentially leadership, this top leadership, top management is part of the responsibility for holding the process. And then, because they hold it, earlier, because what they had in ISO 9001 2008, you have a management representative, but sometimes you see that the management representative goes to after decisions are made or quality requirements are identified, he still has to take this to upper management. But ISO 9001 2015 has made it that top management should be part of the process of allowing quality to reign. And then that gets us very good, because that is exactly when the management principles will come to play, when top management is really involved. So there are still categories in the oil industry. The upstream, that's the one that does the basic, the drilling, the production, and all that. These companies all still have service contractors. Service contractors that render one service to the other. It could be pumping, it could be cementing, it could be drilling, it could be, so all this all works as a synergy to be able to help us get the oil to the next phase of it, to the downstream. The downstream involves the process industries, the marketing companies, other parties who helps us to be able to use oil as a means of running our automotives, being able to run our houses, to power our houses, and be able to still generate energy for our houses. And then still, there are still feeds for all. The industry provides feeds and materials for pharmaceuticals, various solvents and chemicals for companies who require to make other products out of petroleum, out of oil. And then the fertilizers, pesticides, and all that. All these are still industries that has feed coming from them. And then because of the recession, all these whole companies have one issue or the other coming from what has happened, because the issues are revenues are declining. A lot of companies could not manage their business anymore, so they're laying people off and things are going back. So if ISO 9001 is really followed, a whole lot will change, and this is exactly what we want to be looking at this presentation. So what's a recession? A recession in economics, a recession is a business cycle contracting, contraction, resulting in a general slowdown in economic activity. So macroeconomic indicators such as GDP, gross domestic product, investment spending, capacity utilization, household income, business profiles, and inflation fall, while bankruptcies and unemployment rate rise. So as it comes to the industry, there becomes a period of reduced economic activity in the oil industry. And this has led to all this that we mentioned about gross domestic product. For some countries, it's become very extensive for them, for the gross domestic product to have fallen way below, that it becomes difficult for even governments and all that to be able to thrive. And then investment spending, capacity utilization, household incomes, people are losing jobs. And when the households are losing jobs, it becomes very, very difficult for the world to have an order. So if we look at the data that we got from Bloomberg Strategy and Research, you could see that from 2014, from May 2014, the oil price was about $110, going up to maybe $115. Then sometime in June, it started declining. There started the decline, and the decline started going all the way to 2015. And then in January 2015, it seemed as if there was some little changes and all that. Tried to go up a little bit, and then started the downward trend again. So this has really shown that that recession has been very tough, and it's been very tough to companies and to everybody associated with this business. So Incomes that's generated over the while, incomes are what companies used to pay salaries to be able to stay in business and settle shareholders and everybody will remain in business. But then from 2014, you could see, if you look at this same data from Bloomberg, you see that from second quarter to third quarter of 2014, there was a sharp decline from income, and then that started plunging. The income started plunging until it went almost to unbearable levels in the end of 2015. So why ISO 9001 in an oil recession? The ISO 9001 2005-15 quality management systems is designed to help organizations ensure that they meet the needs of customers and other stakeholders. It's also used to meet statutory and regulatory requirements related to a product. It also deals with fundamentals of quality management systems, including the 7 management principles upon which the family of standards is based. So we'll be looking very well, because essentially the 7 management principles are really the key. You follow the requirements to implement ISO 9001, but all the requirements that's contained in the clauses 1 to 10 still takes one item of the management principle to be able to guide you to be able to achieve success in the business. So we want to talk about certifying customers and stakeholders. If we come and say, who are the customers? You see, for a typical business, the customers involves, yes, the clients that we see, but it still involves the shareholders, it still involves the suppliers, it still involves the society, it still involves employees and all that. All these are all customers to the product or the service the organization is rendering. So now, you won't only consider the client, that maybe the one that brings money or the one that sells services, as the one that makes the customer here. We're looking at is the holistic picture, because you see, for whatever the employee contributes to the organization, he too becomes a customer. For whatever the shareholder has as a dividend, as a dividend or profit, he too is a customer. The employee has to pay his benefits. He's working because he needs his personal development, and then all the things associated with the maintenance of families and all that, and these are all very necessary. For the supplier that supplies the business that eventually services the client, business continuity is important. Then for the society, responsible behavior is part of it. So at the end of the day, we see that the customer in question is all inclusive. It's all inclusive of the employee, the shareholder, the suppliers, the society, and then the main client itself. So it's very, very important that we maintain continuity. It's very, very important that things continue, and that is why we think that ISO 9001 is needed at this time, when we really need to be able to follow what it says to be able to stay in business. Because the essence is, if we stay in business, then the employee stays, the shareholders get their dividends, the suppliers still have a business to run, the society itself continues, and then things will get better. So if we look at ISO 9001, let's just have a quick look at ISO 9001. ISO 9001 2015 has 10 clauses, from scope to normative references, to terms and definitions, to the context of the organization, leadership, planning, support, operation, performance evaluation, and improvement. But then the main clauses starts from the context of the organization. The context of the organization involves about the principle, about objectives and targets, policies, how the business is run, and all that, and then leadership. So the clauses 4 to 7 gives us on the essence of planning an organization. It tries to identify how are you going to plan an organization, how are you going to be able to monitor, to set your policies right, have the right managers, have the right leadership, be able to plan for your business, and be able to give support to the business. Then the operation comes to the do, to doing, how are you operating, how are things going to be operated. how are your operation going, so that there won't be losses and then the business can still remain and you'll be able to break even. Then performance evaluation is a check here. The performance evaluation helps us to identify all the audits that we do, ensure that things are working well, non-conformities are closed down, management reviews are carried out, all that are done. At the end of the day, you should be able to keep improving, because when this is done, then management, top leadership that ISO 9001:2015 says should be very, very involved with the new management system, could now be able to do improvement. And when that improvement is done, we can see new phase in our business, no matter how the business or the boss is there in the industry. So if we follow ISO 9001, this should be able to help us to keep going no matter how it is. And we'll look at all this in detail. So now, all the whole clauses of ISO 9001, if you now try to narrow it down, it comes back to customer. All that's say from clauses 1 to 10, in simple terms leads us to how do we treat the customer? How do we focus on this customer? This customer that's our employees, that's our clients, that's the society, that's the suppliers and everybody. Then, how is leadership? How do we take leadership? At this time, leadership, when you have a recession, what you need is really, really good leadership, dynamic leadership, leadership that can make a change. That is the only way you can remain competitive and still remain in business. So, and then engagement of people. People are the best things you can have. If you have the best people, and then because of the recession, these people, you have to be able to ensure that they remain there. Because if these people remain there, your business can grow. If you have some people that has very specialist skills, then because of the recession, you don't think that you really want to have them again and all that, because you don't have so much money to pay them again. Then when the activities change and things change, you now see that you are the one that's losing because you have very few. You have lost your best hands. Process approach. Process approach. Everything must have a system, must have a process. You have to define, it has to go from one step to the other so that you don't miss it, especially when ISO 9001:2015 has a risk-based thinking to it. So what it means is that it wants you to see processes set in place. You don't just do anything because you have to take any step you want to take shortcuts and all that. Then it may cost a lot. So what they do is that there has to be process. And ISO 9001:2015 says that you still have to consider risk at the different points in the process that you're doing. Then improvement. Improvement, because there has to be improvement, then there has to be activities done. There has to be ways of finding out how are we going to improve. Because if we have our incomes are declining, things are going very down, then we should be able to identify how we're going to make improvements. Evidence-based decision making. Evidence-based decision making involves information. ISO 9001:2015 makes collection of information, data, and all the materials that are required. It tries to become a whole lot flexible with it, because the essence is, the issue is that we want evidence. We'll be able to connect information. 9001:2018 was very rigid on data. It has to bring data. You have to have a system of having the data. But 2015 is a whole lot of flexible. But the issue is that they still want to collect the very, very essential data that will help you make decisions, that will help you business thrive. Relationship management. What is the management? How do you manage relationships at this time when there are issues, from the customer, the client, to the society, to the employees, to the suppliers, to everybody that's associated in your business? And that's exactly what, in summary, what ISO 9001:2015 clauses shows in the management principles. So if we come and look at the management principles still follows a trend, because the issue is that for each activity or each requirement in the standard, each activity was meant to complement one another. And then let's take clause 4, organization and its context. That is the context of the organization. For the context of organization, it tries to identify, because these are the bedrock of starting your business. What are your policies? What are your principles? What objectives and targets are you going to do? Now that there's a recession, what are your objectives? What are your targets? How do you want to re-engineer your targets? How do you want to re-engineer your activities? So if you're doing things the way things are done before, previously, when the recession was not there, it's not the way that the organization will now be run. There has to be changes. There has to be various changes from the context of the organization. Yeah, the customer requirements will change, because you see, for whoever your client is, assuming it's a service company, it's a company that renders service to an independent operating company. That's the bigger ones, the drilling companies or the production companies. Within this time we have the recession, the requirements will change. So are you ready to make changes to accept, to be able to fit into what they have now as their requirement? That is very key, because if you can't meet up all that, then that means at the end of the day you find out that you will be left in the dark, because issues that the contract and all that will not come together, especially for one rendering service. So at the planning stage, the context of organization, the leadership, planning and support, you have to put that in pure perspective within this time that have recession. And then that is the only way that 9001 can really help you, because issues that it makes you see in a closed circuit. It makes you see in a closed circuit how your plan has to be, how you have to be able to do, how to get to your operation, and then for your performance evaluation, and then the improvement, so that you can really remain afloat. So if the plan do check at a cycle, this is exactly when the companies really needs it, because you now have to go back to the drawing board again and replan yourself within the context of the ISO 9001 requirements and management principles that you have implemented. So let's try to look a little bit about concepts related to quality. Quality management. Quality management is coordinated activities to direct and control an organization towards quality management. Yeah? And then quality planning is part of quality management, focused on setting quality objectives and specifying necessary operational processes and resources to fulfill the quality objectives. Quality assurance. Part of the quality management focused on providing confidence for meeting quality requirements and ensuring that they are all fulfilled. Quality control. Part of quality management focused on fulfilling quality requirements. Improvement. Recurring activity to increase the ability to fulfill requirements. And then quality improvement. Part of quality management focused on increasing ability to fulfill quality requirements. So essentially, quality management as related to ISO 9001 gives us all these opportunities to be able to do quality planning, to be able to do quality assurance, to do quality control, to be able to have improvement and all that. And these are all in context, and all going down into the several management principles, which we will now start about to look at in detail, to be able to see how this can help us within the recession. So what should we do at this time? What should we do? We should use the ISO 9001 7 management principles to try to be able to see how each and every item on the management principle is analyzed. We check it, we plan it for each item on the management principle. We plan, we do, we check, we act. For customer focus, for leadership, for engagement of people, for process, for improvement, on evidence and information and data, and on relationship management. So using the methodology will be able to help us and guide us in the way, so that, because the issue now is the competition is tight and the revenues are declining. So when the competition is tight, everybody has to sit up and be able to make changes. That's the changes you make and what could help you to still remain afloat and still remain in business and be able to keep your people. So let's take customer focus. For the clientele, what quality of products and services are we giving to them? This is when quality assurance and quality control, because of the recession, there's no money to throw away. So if there's no money to throw away, you have to maintain as much closeness to your quality assurance and quality control. So because the price becomes competitive. When few people are chasing the jobs, then that means the price becomes competitive. And the only way you can be able to maintain your own operations and be able to render services to a client is when you have competitive prices. That is ensuring that your quality control and your quality assurance are maintained. For your quality assurance, you must ensure that for your non-conformances, the non-conformance, preventive actions that will be able to put into all the boxes are reduced to the barest minimum. You are ensured that most times you don't need to do the rework, because the issue is that if you do the work, you're losing money. So these are critical. For the clientele, this is when top quality is needed, and you should, as someone rendering service, should be able at this time to ensure that you maintain quality fully. For the shareholders, dividends and profits, no matter what the story, profit has to be made and dividends paid. So now, the shareholders are still your customers. And then, for the leadership and the management of the organization, within a recession, there's crisis already. But how do you ensure that you still remain in business to be able to ensure that you pay dividends and profit and what are due to them? Because the issue is that it will be worse if the shareholders start pulling out their funds, and then it becomes a whole lot of problem. For the employees, personal development, there has to be processes reviewed, and then as much people as possible retained. Yes, what we've seen in the industry in recent times is that, you see, because of the recession, a whole lot of people are losing jobs. Jobs are being lost. But then, as you lose the jobs, you lose the best brains. Then, as we lose these best brains, we lose the people that have some very important characteristics and qualities to be able to drive a business forward. So, if you lose them, maybe by the time you need them back again, you don't have them. It has played out on the goodwill of the organization, and it has drawn down the competence of the organization. So, this is not exactly when to start laying people off. But we can do a whole lot with the people we have, because issues, leadership and management could still be there, and they'll still be having their same pay, their salary and all that. But then you start laying people off. How do you have these people again when the recession is over? So yes, it's only the final. Is at the final time that you can say we let people off, but at the first time we have to be able to find out alternatives. What can we do that should be able to retain our people? Suppliers, business continuity and all that. At this time is when we need to do detailed inspection and audits, because materials and items we see from suppliers, this is when we have to work with the suppliers fully and should be able to have value from whatever the suppliers gives us. We should audit them fully. We should be able to have detailed inspection and audit them fully. From the site, we should be able to show responsible behavior. How do we have responsible behavior? We must ensure that we still remain afloat. If we remain afloat by doing all the other things, then of course the society will still continue and things will come and will get better. So at this time when there's recession, we need high-level leadership, not leadership that's based on mediocrity or based on. We need high-level dynamic leadership. Leadership that can do re-engineering, leadership that can be able to carry everybody along and be able to move along, so that at the end of the day, the business can still continue. Whatever we're doing, the services we're rendering for the industry or whatever we are in the industry will still continue to remain there. Leadership that could give direction, leadership that high-level leadership that could provide direction. And at the time when we have the recession The leadership will not have borders. The leadership should be able to have the free hand to be able to engage in various things, research, development, whatever that it takes. Engagement of the people and all that, using the people appropriately, using things, resources that we have to optimally to be able to deliver value. For internal environment in the organization, in operations, we have to be able to multitask. We should have to be able to give credence to people who are bringing innovations that could add value to the business. Now, this is the best time to identify what really could help the customer, the client, especially the client that pays us. What activities could we reinvent, or things that we could add that could make us stand out of the crowd? And that's exactly when we have business. So at this time, we should be able to multitask to identify new things and identify new activities and move on. Engagement of people. All of us know that people are the essence of every organization. The people are the essence of every organization. If you keep your people, if you treat your people well and all that, you get the best out of them. So at this time, we must ensure that our people are utilized maximally. We have to be able to have opportunities to give people time to think, to be able to bring innovation. Our people to be able to have a free hand, to be able to bring innovation to whatever processes we're doing. Because there could be processes that could be creating a whole lot of losses earlier. But with the recession, every loss should be cut off. And as every loss is cut off, that means it's our people that can be able to add value, identify new opportunities, identify new skills, new things, new ways of doing things that could help us and then to remain afloat. What processes do we have? We should have processes that are rigorous and they may not add too much value. How do we do them? For the people who can substitute those processes, who can multitask, and be able to still create value. And this is what we can use if we really allow people and engage our people fully. Because when we engage our people, they can bring out their best, and we'll have the best. At this time is when we have our people doing think tank and brainstorm. This is when, because in the oil industry you have a whole lot of activities, you have a whole lot of spec. You can have one activity, let's say pumping. Pumping could have different methods of doing pumping for testing, for pressure testing, for various things, to be able to run fleet or to do all that. So some activities may take a long time. Now, this is when it's necessary that we should be able to have a process that should not take as long time as possible. Because let's say, if it's a drilling activity involves time, So each 30 minutes, each 1 hour costs money, and this money is not, we're not talking about small money, it's a drilling activity. So now, if you can develop a process or an activity that will take less time than what you used to be before, that means you stand out of the crowd and you can still become relevant to the customer, and you become much relevant to your clients at this time. Now, this is the time to train our people and retrain them, because you see, things are done before, and we could be doing things before and could be having losses. We could be losing money from angles we don't see. But then, if we have best skills at this time, this is when quality assurance is supposed to be at its stage, so that people know exactly how to cut down losses, how to cut down time. It's not a time to lose money, and time is money. So at the time, train your people and retrain them. And if you don't have activity, ensure that in-house trainings are done. People are learning new things and all that, so that they can bring innovation. Some have specialist talents that could bring them when we're in this recession. Let's form teams. Let's form teams to be able to develop projects, to work on projects. To work on projects we've not been doing before. For things that all the while we may not have been able to save a whole lot from the way we're doing things. This is when to do re-engineering, change the way things are done, form things that could work harmoniously and be able to give us results. Still, no borders. People should be allowed at this point in time to develop, to show what they think. Management should be able, and that's exactly a good thing with ISO 9001 2015. Leadership management is part of the quality process. So because they're part of the quality process, they should know that engaging people is a critical aspect of quality. And then you should be able to allow your people room to be able to be innovative at this time, because that's the only way you can do changes. And when you make changes, you cut down losses and you gain value and you gain more money. When people achieve a whole lot of things, let's say teams or individuals, they bring innovation that is good at the time. Let's ensure that we recognize them, because if we recognize one, another one wants to be able to recognize. So people work a whole lot much harder, and then the results will come. And that's exactly how we can make value and then create a way to still remain in business. Process approach. So this is exactly when, for the oil industry, the desired product should be out there. We know the processes that's involved in either drilling or production, and some are processes that in between, when these processes are in between these processes, we still have activities or things that causes losses. This is exactly when the very right product is given to the customer. Because if the customer knows that you have the very, very desired product, you will remain in business. You will not close shop. Because, you see, let's say for pumping, we have various chemicals that used to do treatment, that used to do cementing, or that used to do sound control, or that used to do some other activities in the industry, or to be able to do well intervention. Well intervention is when you have to be able, because a well is now depreciating, you should be able to help this well to produce a whole lot more. So now, if you have a product that can give you more production, if because of your research and development you could be able to have a product that will give you the required a very, very desired that could save the customer time and a whole lot of money, and you'll be able to help them increase production, you will remain in business, and that's exactly what the customer wants. So you will even have more activity now that the recession is there than you had before when it was in when the activities were normal. Every process at this time should be efficient, and then we should be able to be prudent on resources to be able to manage the processes that they could give us what we want. Yeah, we don't expect a process that has losses along the line, along the supply chain, along the delivery line, along the operating line. That is not needed at this time. So resources should be deployed when they are necessary. Then the cost-efficient processes should be carried out so that we can have process efficiency. So still, this is exact time to be able to place the right controls. If we don't have the right controls in our operations before, in activities before, this is when to be able to invent. This is when to be able to match controls that's out there that could add value. Controls that are not very efficient, this is when to substitute them so that we can have optimal delivery. And then, let's say, we have some tools that we're working on a particular location, let's say in a drilling process. And then some tools takes a longer time to be able to give you results. Of course, for drilling, there has to be various things done. You have to drill the hole, you have to lay pipes, you have to case the hole, you have to evaluate the formation, you have to be able to check your processes. So now, if you have the tools that are not giving you optimal results, this is when to change those tools. Because you see, for each 1 hour that you save the customer or the client at this time, this is when you can really gain a whole lot. Because you see, The money you'll be saving the customer for 1 hour will make this customer to retain you and to be able to keep you and keep bringing more businesses for you. So we have to be able to engineer our processes, check our input and output, and ensure that they give us the desired product. It has to be efficient. The process line has to be efficient. And then we should be able to walk our people through the process to be able to ensure that if we don't have the right controls, we invent it, we match them when one control is not good enough, or substitute to be able to have optimal delivery. And then worst case scenario, we'll be able to retool, change the tools, and we'll have efficiency. Just like Niccolo Machiavelli said, nothing is more difficult to carry out, nor more doubtful of success, nor more dangerous to handle than to initiate a new order of things. So because of the recession and then the way the industry, the whole lot of money that's involved in the oil industry, with the recession, new changes has to be made. And anybody that does not want to make the new changes will sink with it, because essentially, if you don't want to change the processes, you'll be left out. You can't join the competition. And then if you don't join the competition, then when you have a problem, you want to lay people off, you want to be able to close the shop, you want to do all that, which is not necessary. So the best thing is for us to be able to, let's think of what ISO 9001 is giving us and be able to make things out of it. Improvement. For us to make improvement, to have improvement at this time when there's a recession, there has to be impactful objectives and targets. The objectives has to be impactful. They have to be different from what we used to do before, we not to be before. How we want to be able to achieve goals will change, because you see, that is how we can become relevant to the competition and be able to make things out of it. So the plan do check out to be able to help us. How do we have our objectives? Our policies are all right. How do we ensure that our targets are met? How do we ensure that because right now, this is when the customer or the client gives you very, very stringent targets. They lay requirements that becomes extremely difficult for competition. So now you have to have objectives and targets that are impactful, that can help you to remain valuable to the customer. If we have identified this, if we have established these objectives and targets, we must strictly implement them. And we must plan and ensure that our processes are working right. This is exactly what ISO 9001 means. You say you have to really plan, and planning, you must have to have the impactful objectives. There has to be strict implementation. ISO 9001-2015 ensures that management, not just management representative, because 2015 has ensured that it's not only that responsibility for quality and for value in business is only tied to the management representative. Management representative may not be top management. He may not be top management, and he may be even low management. So at the end of the day, what happens is that the management representative goes back after a review, the management review, after a review of non-conformances and all that, or resources of things that are not working right. He makes a report and sends to top management. Top management, because top management is not really fully into the management of quality in the organization. They now start, they have a whole lot of attitude towards it, and at the end of the day, you may see that the things you wanted or the things that's coming out of the management review is not really followed. But ISO 9001 puts responsibility on top management and leadership. So what it means is that with that, we all have an all-inclusive monitoring, data use and audit, because now it's part of the top management that has processes. There are requirements for top management to do workarounds, to do monitoring, to check, to ensure that things are working. And at this time when the recession is there, then leadership and top management must ensure that they are part of this, which is very necessary. So when all these are done, we ensure that we should be able to invent, merge, substitute, retool, optimize, partner to be able to have improvement, because that's the only way we can make progress, and that's the only way we can continue. Evidence-based decision making. All decisions must be based on use and analysis of data. As 9001-2015 ensures that you must have adequate information. Documentation and management of records is necessary, but the essence is, how do you really use this data? How do you have a pure analysis and use of information you've collected to be able to stay in competition? Because you need to stay in competition when there's a recession. So it's very important that decisions are made based on data, information that's collected, and this information are analyzed appropriately and used effectively. We must source information, source and analyze them for value-oriented decisions to ensure that we have to make the best out of what we're saying to be able to make very good decisions. So data and information is very required. In God we trust, all other ones big data, because the issue is, if we don't have data with us, we cannot really place our fingers to what we are deciding. We have to place our real fingers to what we're deciding, and the only way we can do this is we should have the right data and the right information. That's the only way we can make the best decisions. So these data could come in various nodes. They could come through research and analysis. They could come through encrypted messages. Because right now, technology is evolving, has changed too long. So every other way we could ensure that we have the right data and the right information is necessary, and we'll be able to keep that and keep going with it. Relationship management. We have to have competitive and excellent services. We have to ensure that we have good customer service. We have to build strong vendor relationships. Customer retention and acquisition. There has to be business growth. There has to be intelligent marketing automation. There has to be common platform for all data. There has to be strong relationships across all channels, including social media, email, and customer call centers. What essentially we're saying here is that there has to be, everyone has to be tagged along. Everybody from the vendors to the customer to feedback for the customer, to be able to show presence with the customer. It is at this time that we really have to identify what the customer wants. How do we market to the customer? How do we give the best marketing strategies for the customer? How do we create seamless service to the customer? And that's exactly how we should be able to do so. Our management to our customers should be competitive and excellent. Our service to the customer should be total. And then for our vendors, we should be able to ensure that the vendors gives us the right products. They give us the right materials to be able to serve our customers. Because if we don't have the right materials or the right supplies from the vendors, that means still what we provide for the customers will have issues. So that's part of it. We should market intelligently and then be able to build a common platform for all our data. So for relationship management, you think about sales department, the service, the quality, the support, technology, people, process. Everything that has to be all-inclusive to be able to ensure that we deliver value to the customer at this time. The customer at this time when there's a recession is very, very important that we'll be able to meet up with whatever they want at this time. So we have to control our destiny. If not, someone else will do that for us, and then it will be too late. So in concluding, The recession and slump in the oil industry was never expected by many, but had to come like one of those things. It has come, and we have to be able to find ourselves out of it. Yeah, so 9001 7 management principles is a very stable tool to get to have things going at this time as it addresses customer issues, leadership, our people, processes, attention to detail, attention to detail and improvement, data and relationships. So we strongly recommend to all industry players who are not ISO 9001 certified to do so at the shortest possible time so that they can remain relevant in their evolving business environment. Then we have to ensure that we use our plan, do, check methodology for our operations and our processes so that you can remain valuable in business. Thank you very much for the time. This time we want to be able to take any questions that any management may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kene, for this great presentation. Now, with the time left, we will go ahead with some questions. Therefore, if you have any questions, it's time to ask them. So please use the comment box or raise your hand and function, and we will unmute you. Thank you. Okay, the first question, Kene, is one attendee asked you to go back to the leadership slide, which is slide number 16.
Okay.
And the question is written like this: how to create quality documents to assess the ISO 9001 in this case?
How to create quality document to
assess
ISO 9001.
Yes.
You know, for implementing the ISO 9001, there has to be a quality manual. The quality manual will show it may be a very small document. It may even be a 5-page document. But we really have to show your policies, your objectives, your targets, and how you want to be able to. If you set a manual that is very easy and accessible by everyone in your organization, you will be achieving a whole lot, because it really says exactly this is what we want to do, this is how we do it, this is our targets and objectives, and this is how we want to drive our business. And as much as top leadership remains on that and they don't deviate from that, that means you'll be delivering value to your business.
Okay, then thank you, Kene, for this answer. And because of the time limited, we will have to conclude this presentation. However, if you have any other question, you can send your question through email and we will answer them individually. Thank you again, Kene, for this clear and informative presentation. I want to thank all the attendees as well for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today. We hope you enjoyed the webinar. To keep up with our webinars, please check our PECB webinar schedule in our website, pecb.com, or our social media network. Since next week we are organizing a webinars on interesting topic. Next Tuesday we are hosting a webinar on the topic Best Approach to Integrate ISO 9001 and 20001 simultaneously. Thank you, Kene, for this informative presentation. Goodbye.
Thank you.